Hey everyone, and welcome back to the final chapter of this Explainer series. If you've been following along with us, you've already put in the hard work unpacking the foundations of professional ethics. We've covered a lot of ground. But today is where we tie the whole thing together. We're going to bridge that gap between the theory you learn and the real-world mastery you actually need on the job. Just think about the sheer scale of global procurement for a second. We're talking planes tracing routes across continents, massive shipping containers navigating crazy logistics, fleets of trucks moving vital supplies. It's a vast, interconnected web. And here's the thing, every single node in that massive global network completely relies on trust. So today, we're bringing the entire CIPS framework together, focusing heavily on professional competence, legal compliance, and corporate ethics, to show you exactly how you become the anchor of that trust. Before we get into the weeds, I want to firmly plant this core mantra in our minds. Ethics is not a one-time decision. It is a professional habit built through continuous learning, legal responsibility, and moral courage. Take a second to really let that sink in. Ethics isn't just some checkbox you tick off during your HR onboarding week and then forget about. Not at all. It's a muscle. It's an ongoing, living professional habit that you've got to actively build every single day you show up to work. Okay, let's take a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll start with the final ethical chapter, then move into competence and legal compliance. After that, we'll explore the corporate ethics ecosystem, build out the complete ethics pyramid, run through a capstone real-world scenario, and finish things up with the ethical decision check. All right, Section 1, the final ethical chapter, bringing the framework together. Check out the path we're taking. It's literally a step-by-step journey. We start down at Step 1 with the dual pillars, mastering those individual responsibilities, which we'll cover in Commitments 4 and 5. Then the path scales upward to Step 2, the ecosystem, where we see how an entire corporation synthesizes this ethics pyramid. And finally, it all culminates at Step 3 with the stress test. That's where we apply the framework to a real-world scenario. But remember, you absolutely cannot reach Step 3 without building that solid foundation at Step 1 first. Moving on to Section 2, competence and legal compliance. This is all about mastering your individual responsibilities. Notice how these stairs are rising directly out of an open book? Well, that is Commitment 4 right there in a nutshell, enhancing professional competence. It beautifully captures a fundamental reality of our profession. Ethical procurement demands two things: technical excellence and active, lifelong learning. You have to continuously climb. You've got to identify and address your competency gaps because, let's face it, the business landscape never, ever stops evolving. So here's the crucial point. Falling behind in your skills, it isn't just bad for your next promotion. A lack of competence can actually become a direct ethical failure. Think about it. If you aren't keeping up with your continuous professional development and you're working with outdated technical or ethical knowledge, you could accidentally greenlight a supplier that violates modern standards. You have to address those competency gaps proactively, because at the end of the day, unacknowledged incompetence is a major ethical blind spot. Now let's look at Commitment 5, ensure full legal compliance. See those concentric circles? The inner core is simply labeled law. And that covers stuff like anti-bribery, modern slavery, competition law, data protection, all the big ones. But look at that massive outer boundary encapsulating it. That is ethics. This makes it incredibly clear, right? The law is just the inner core. Ethics encompasses a much larger, way stricter boundary. Yes, you absolutely must comply with all applicable laws, but your duty as a professional is to go way beyond those bare minimum legal requirements. And that brings us to a massively important distinction. Something may be entirely legal, yet still highly unethical. Honestly, this is a huge trap for newer professionals. Legal compliance, that's just the foundation of your house. It keeps you out of prison. But true professional ethics always go further. They are the actual structure that makes the house livable, functional, and trusted by the community. Section 3, Corporate Ethics Ecosystem. Let's see how this scales to the whole organization. A corporate ecosystem isn't just some static diagram, it's a moving machine, and it always begins at the top. Tone from the top means leadership absolutely has to lead by example. That tone then flows down into robust policies. Think strict internal codes and supplier codes of conduct. But we all know policies are just paper without continuous training, right? And that training naturally leads right into active monitoring, which means things like audits and whistleblowing mechanisms. Then the cycle just keeps repeating. If any one of those gears stops turning, the whole ecosystem grinds to a halt. But here is where it usually breaks down in the real world. Corporate ethics fail when leadership behavior contradicts the written policies. You can literally have the most beautifully written internal codes of conduct in the world, backed by the most expensive compliance software money can buy. But if the tone from the top signals that rules can be bent for the right price or for the right deadline, the entire system completely collapses. All right, Section 4, the complete ethics pyramid. Let's synthesize those 5 core commitments. This is it, the complete procurement ethics pyramid. Down at the bedrock, we have legal compliance. Stocked firmly on top of that is professional integrity. That's where you find honesty, accountability, and growth. And only when those foundational blocks are perfectly aligned can you actually reach the peak, ethical leadership. And that leadership peak is what protects your ultimate prize, which is your reputation. Now for Section 5, the Capstone real-world scenario. Time to stress test this framework. So we're contrasting 2 vital arenas here. On the left side, in blue, you've got the highly structured, methodical approach of an exam strategy. You identify the issue, apply your commitments, use a 5-step check, recommend an action. Pretty straightforward. But look over on the right in green. Daily habits. These are reactive. They are behavioral. Real life doesn't just hand you a tidy exam paper. Real life demands that you proactively update your CPD, maintain your conflict register, question unusual requests, and above all, speak up the second something feels off. Let this serve as a really stark reminder. Your daily professional responsibility means actively speaking up. When a stakeholder pulls you aside and asks you to bypass a standard procedure just this once, or hands you a totally undocumented request, you have to question it immediately. You've got to stop it before it turns into a total disaster. Okay, you can literally feel the weight in this scenario. Look at that block of tight deadlines and political pressure just crushing down onto the gear of full due diligence. Here's your capstone situation. A senior manager is pressuring you, hard, to skip full due diligence on a highly political project just to hit a tight deadline. But you've got this sinking suspicion that there are potential modern slavery risks lurking in the supplier's subcontractors. I want you to drop everything else you're doing for just a second. Imagine you're sitting at your desk and that email just pops up from your boss. The political pressure is immense. Pause and really reflect. Which specific commitments are at stake here? What is your actual next move? I want you to mentally resolve this high-stakes dilemma right now before we reveal the answer. All right, you got your answer in mind? Let's see how you did in Section 6, the ethical decision check, resolving the dilemma. This is the 5-step checklist that will literally save your professional reputation. Walk through this with me. 1. Is it legal? 2. Is it transparent? 3. Is it fair and objective? 4. Would I be completely comfortable seeing this exact decision printed on the front page of tomorrow's newspaper? And 5. Does it protect stakeholder trust? So let's process that dilemma. You run the modern slavery risk through these checks. Is it legal to skip it? Maybe, maybe not. Is it transparent? Definitely not. Does it pass the front page test? That's an absolute catastrophic failure. And that leads us to the ultimate decision rule. If you hesitate on any of those questions, if even one single step makes you pause, stop. You must refuse to bypass that due diligence. You document your concerns meticulously, and you escalate it to senior leadership or compliance immediately. No exceptions. And this brings it all together. This handshake blueprint is exactly what we've been building towards all along. Master all 5 core commitments. Always remember that competence and compliance, those are merely your foundation. It's your ethics that truly set you apart. Actively protect the profession, because ethics is your daily responsibility. True professional ethics isn't just about avoiding wrongdoing. It's about actively building this bridge of trust and strengthening the entire credibility of our profession. I want to wrap up this explainer with a final, really powerful thought. Integrity is tested most when no rule explicitly tells you what to do. When the policies are totally silent, the deadline is breathing down your neck, and the pressure is sky high, that is exactly when your true professional character is forged. So the next time you find yourself standing right in the middle of that gray area, what will you choose?
Ethics in procurement is never a simple yes or no decision, isolated to a single moment in time. It is a professional habit. It requires active cultivation over the entire arc of your career, built through continuous learning and moral courage. Welcome to the 5th and final chapter of our CIPS Code of Conduct series. Today, we bridge the gap between individual professional competence, strict legal compliance, and overarching corporate integrity. Legal compliance provides the operational baseline for a business. However, professional ethics begin precisely where the law reaches its limit. Modern global supply chains present complex dilemmas where minimum legal requirements offer little guidance. Navigating these spaces demands a higher standard of moral courage. True professionalism is defined entirely by how you operate in those undocumented gray areas where the statutes and regulations fall short. This brings us to Commitment 4 of the CIPS Code, Enhancing Professional Competence. Think of continuous professional development, or CPD, not as administrative record-keeping, but as the technical lens through which you detect risk. A professional who lacks the technical training to spot the indicators of modern slavery or data breaches remains blind to the unethical practices occurring in their own supply chain. This lack of specialized knowledge prevents the professional from protecting vulnerable stakeholders. When a procurement officer stops learning, they lose the capacity to fulfill their duty of care, turning a competency gap into a direct ethical failure. You cannot make sound ethical judgments without first understanding the underlying mechanics of the problem. Technical excellence acts as a strict prerequisite for ethical clarity. In high-stakes procurement, ignorance or a lack of skill is never a valid ethical defense. Commitment 5 formalizes this operational floor by mandating full legal compliance. Strict adherence to anti-bribery statutes, competition laws, and data protection regulations forms the absolute baseline of the profession. Yet, a critical divergence principle exists within the framework. A supply chain action can be entirely legal while remaining highly unethical. Ethical frameworks are designed specifically to govern behavior in scenarios that extend beyond the minimum requirements written in the penal code. The law dictates what a professional can do. The ethical framework dictates what a professional should do. Zooming out, organizations adopt the CIPS code macroscopically. They implement protective mechanisms like rigorous supplier codes, continuous ethics training, and active internal auditing. These policies are structurally supported by independent whistleblowing and a strong tone from the top, the visible daily behavior of senior leadership. Organizational integrity experiences its primary failure mode when executive action directly contradicts written policy. When leadership bypasses internal controls to meet a deadline or secure a deal, it causes an immediate, systemic ethical collapse across all lower tiers of the company. Corporate codes of ethics remain operationally useless without aligned, highly visible executive action to back them up. We can synthesize all 5 CIPS core commitments by looking at their primary outcomes: protecting reputation, maintaining honesty, ensuring accountability, driving growth, and demanding responsibility. These outcomes map directly into a unified structural defense against corporate pressure. At the bedrock base of this structure sits legal compliance. The middle tier snaps into place as professional integrity. Finally, the peak of the hierarchy is achieved through ethical leadership and sustainable trust. This hierarchy governs how professionals evaluate complex dilemmas. To test this framework under pressure, we will apply it to a real-world scenario. Consider a highly political project operating under severe deadline pressures from the board. A senior manager applies direct pressure on you to skip the full due diligence protocols to keep the project on schedule. The critical variable in this scenario: you suspect potential modern slavery risks exist within the supplier's subcontractor network. Your strategy here requires systematically identifying the exact ethical issues at play before reacting to the pressure. This scenario forces a professional clash. It pits immediate operational deadlines against the mandates of Commitment 4, your competence, and Commitment 5, legal compliance. We resolve this clash using the 5-step ethical check. 1. Is it legal? 2. Is it transparent? 3. Is it fair? 4. Would you want this on the front page? 5. Does it protect trust? Hesitation triggers an immediate halt. The justified action is clear. Refuse the bypass. Document your concerns regarding the modern slavery risk and escalate the issue directly to compliance. Moral ambiguity is resolved by rigorous checking of the facts, never by gut instinct. Navigating crisis scenarios requires relying on the standard operational habits you practice every day. This means updating your CPD logs, maintaining your conflict of interest register, and questioning undocumented requests. You hold an active daily role in safeguarding public trust. The credibility of the entire procurement field rests on these individual actions. Professional ethics requires actively building public value and sustainable trust. It is far more demanding than simply avoiding wrongdoing. Ultimately, true integrity is only tested when the rulebook runs out.